Hello and good evening. It's 7:12 p.m. It is Friday. It is March 21st. Yesterday was the first day of spring. And even though it's the first day of spring, I didn't really feel compelled to sit there and wear like spring-like colors today. I was kind of like wearing like a black and white mixture, just kind of like, being kind of mellow, somewhere in the middle. But today was not a bad day. I had my lunch around 12 and then I went down to the library and I thought I was going to spend like 2 hours there, but I actually I actually stayed there till like around 5:30. So I actually got a lot done. I was thinking a lot about, what's been going on, and I wanted to share something with you. I'm going to touch a little bit more on this in my newsletter, but this morning while I was getting ready to go to the library, I got like, you know how you get those notifications in your phone? I noticed I got an email, and guess who that email is from? Okay, so I got an email from Net Worth Billionaire Boy. Now, you're probably wondering, because I had mentioned that I got the feeling that he was not here a while ago. So I'm starting to think, okay, perhaps maybe, because I mentioned this before, there is a total big possibility, okay, that some of these people in my soul tribe have the privilege of having what they call a clone double in case of emergencies. Now, I have read about this a few years ago from another clone. His name is Darnell Marshall. Okay, and although I am not somebody who does like extensive research into how they clone, but I do know different methods of what they do. So I suspect that perhaps maybe this may be the case with him. Anyway, I got this email from him. It was very brief. I have not responded to it. Okay. Now, some people would wonder, like, okay, well, if you have the ability to tell if that's that person or not, why don't you do it? I find this whole thing very disturbing. Okay. I find the whole thing very, very disturbing, mainly because of the bullying tactics that were used out on me. Okay. And I do suspect that this person is more humbled now. But and also I'd like to say that when you are like one of your like one of the soul tribe, or if you're one of those cloned individuals, people take advantage of you, and you tend to get placed in situations where you're isolated, and they pretty much control who comes into your life. So unfortunately, I've always dreamed of having that ideal gal pal. But the thing is that my social circle is selected. Okay, it is what it is. So anyway, I'm taking my own time. If and when I do respond to Net Worth Billionaire Boy, I don't know. Okay, right now that's the last thing on my mind. I feel very drained. I did a lot today at the library. Now, I wanted to share these intuitive messages about, me finding out the going down the rabbit hole and finding out, all of this stuff about the blacklisting, the bullying, the, being a targeted individual. And I did talk about, the Mormon church, its church's involvement in it. And I've actually made a playlist of videos talking about, their involvement in it, as well as Net Worth Billionaire Boys, right? Um, you know, I've been doing some this morning. I wanted to add some more information into my newsletter. So I did some like, card readings on, my past life, digging deeper. Because, I had mentioned before in several of my videos when I was growing up, I remember, studying the Book of Mormon, reading the Book of Mormon, and my father talking and warning me about Mormons. And I also talked about, this one kid who punched me, but this is not the only offense that I've dealt with when it came to Mormon kids. I remember there was the boy who punched me in grade school. I remember being teased a lot, kind of like, people who would instigate more bullying in junior high school. And then I also remember being bullied in high school as well as outside of high school. Like, sometimes I'd be walking home from the library or walking home from work, and I would encounter some Mormon who would say something. So I've had lifelong problems with this Mormon group, right? And it does relate to my past life, okay? As C.B. Braganza. Apparently, the Mormon church has been trying to convert me for a very long time, okay? A very long time. And, I don't really adhere to their beliefs. And I would like to say, and I've always defended, people who've had visions or people who've had whatever. I am not saying that the people who followed Joseph Smith or that Joseph Smith's visions some of his visions weren't inspired. I'm not saying that, okay? But you always get these like individuals within this group, like these, I call them overzealous type people who take things too far, or they might be motivated by things that are other than something spiritual. I know the Mormon church is a huge money making machine, okay? And this is one of the reasons why I have always been turned off off of mainstream religion. It's because I do see that it is a business. My spiritual connection to God, the universal forces, however you want to see it, it is unadulterated, like pure energy. It is not in any way compromised, but in the slightest way. And this is one of the reasons why I do not like organized religion for myself. Okay, now I do think that they're the ones who, through perhaps maybe this network billionaire boy, they do send people into your life. Okay, like when I first found out that I was connected to the Celebrity Soul Tribe, I do recall doing some shout outs, right? And then also I know that because they do extensive research into who you are, your personality, they always send people that you might be interested in. Okay, so let's go back to 2023 when they brought in Justin Hayward. Now, okay, I remember liking Justin. I've always loved the Moody Blues. Okay, I know it seems weird for Black Chip to like the Moody Blues, but given the fact that their lyrics and their tones of their music was kind of like on a mystical leaning, I could not help but be interested in. Okay, now I don't recall me being a fan of Justin Hayward specifically to where like I would have pictures of him on my wall or anything like that. But lo and behold, because I mentioned this person, they knew I was a fan, they're going to send him my way. And the sad part about it is that their really true friendships cannot be developed with people because everybody gets used as a pawn in this. Okay, it's like I felt hurt meeting some of these people because they were being manipulated, or it was always for some lure. It's always for something other than pure friendship, and I'm not trying to deal with that, okay? So then I end up feeling angry and pissed off, and it just ruins, I struggled with my feelings of these people that I had respect for growing up, because I'm looking into their life and finding out, okay, they're not just, I want to appreciate them as artists. I really don't want to think of them as mind-controlled slaves. I don't want to think of them that way. But in the reality of it, some of them very much are, okay? Because just by me talking to some of them, I realized that these people were very controlled, just by the sense of their detachment of reality, right? So, lo and behold, that was 2023. A lot of shit happened. The whole issue with Rumble and all this other stuff happened. Patreon, and all the way down the line. Okay. And then, of course, I've had to have, negative experiences with a few other celebrities that I regret. And, it's unfortunate. But at that time, I didn't want to talk to anybody anymore because I didn't realize it was like, Mr. Net Worth Billionaire, and I didn't realize it was the Mormon Church at that time. It was just the fact that I realized I was a target. I'm not playing with it. I find it very offensive. It's just, to me, it was just inappropriate. It's inappropriate, okay? And so they wanted to launch the war on me and try to modify my behavior. Now, apparently, in my newsletter, I'm talking about this past life reading that I'm doing, and I'm not going to give you too much information on it, but I will say that the same issues that they have with Maria Gordon are pretty much the same issues that they had with CB. Okay, I did get the World card, and in my interpretations of my tarot lessons, I ascribe that definition as it relates to politics. Now, their politics that everything that basically CB Berganza did, they looked at it as a form of politics. Okay, they obviously had an issue because I didn't believe in their religion, right? And this, anytime you don't believe in something, and I probably, said it wasn't something for me respectfully, but here's the thing. These Mormon people have been observing my life for a very long time. They obviously understand that I am the clone of King Solomon, even back in C.B. Berganza's days. I know that Mormons, even as Maria Gordon, I realized that Mormons were very deeply into the study of genealogy, okay? But as Maria Gordon, I didn't really understand why. I knew that Mormons, like, before the internet, okay, before things like Ancestry.com, it was well known, okay, at least to me, okay, that if you were interested in looking up your ancestry, that you could go and obtain, go to these Mormon people and they could like look it up in their records. They kept records of people's genealogy, okay. Now, so this is where the whole merger of the, Mormon cloning type thing comes in, right? So they didn't like the way that I lived my life. And, first I'd like to say that, I was an Ethiopian. I did not have a culture of my own. Meaning like from a very young age, I went to England. Okay. I realize I'm English in maybe my customs, meaning like, or my manners or the traditions or the habits and stuff like that you acquire between like those ages of 7 and 18 or 20 years old. Okay, I'm becoming accustomed to living that lifestyle, meaning I'm being taught things like table manners. I'm understanding how you greet people. I'm understanding these certain social etiquette of British culture. Okay, so that's going to be very much ingrained in me as an adult because it's that those are those formative years, right? So that makes sense. Just like you see a lot of maybe Mexican kids or Filipino people or somebody from a different country, they come over here, that doesn't change their race. It just changes, but they might have worn a specific kind of outfit from their country, but when they come here, they kind of wear like American clothes, or they kind of, you know what I mean? You kind of assimilate to the best of your ability. But okay, I didn't really know very much of the Ethiopian culture. I moved into England. So when I came here to the United States, I probably wore a mixture of English clothes or whatever. But at the same time, there's a part of me that has always felt like I've always just been on my own. Like I don't really feel like I identify with anything. And really, if you think about my heavenly origins, I don't. I am an angel or an angelic creature that came to earth and was set upon people. Meaning that, and when I think about how cloning can actually genetically modify people, such as what they've done with several royal families, I do understand that not only have they messed with the genders, they could have possibly made me black on purpose. That is totally possible. Okay, and I'm just throwing that out there because, these are people who, wanted to manipulate things, modify things, and try to make things, less or in their favor. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I do not believe having dark skin is less than favor. I know that a lot of Mormons, especially white supremacist groups and stuff like that, they do not think very highly of black people. I am very grateful to have dark skin. I like who I am. And that might piss people off, but I do. I'm very content with who I am. Okay, so let's go. Anyway, I know, during the Mormon periods of when they first formulated into a religion, as well as when I was Maria Gordon, they have never, historically, all my confrontations that I've mentioned throughout my years of school have always been racial by Mormon kids. Okay, and where do they come and get this? They get this from their parents. And where do the parents get it from? From their religious doctrine. Period. Okay, so I understand that throughout the years, the Mormon face or the Mormon front has looked very different. I know when I was growing up, when I would think of Mormon, I would immediately think of white people. I knew that the Mormons sent their missionaries to different countries and whatever. Of course, that's part of the whole Christian denomination or wanting, what do you call it? What do you call that? Dominion theology, okay, where they feel that they want to spread everything and change people's cultures and force their beliefs on everybody and whatever. But I also understood that because there was a tie between Mormonism and their study of genealogy, that they have always upheld the purity of the white race, and this was highly encouraged within their doctrine. Okay, and you know what? I personally think that if a person wants to stick with their own kind, that's nothing wrong with that. Okay, and I've always been the kind of person that believes that if you can love yourself, I love myself. And I love myself without the need to hate anybody else, okay? But a lot of people take this whole attitude, well, in order for me to build up pride, I have to go squash other people. And see, this is the main focus of a lot of hate groups, instead of really looking at the real problem. Anyway, so the Mormons have been wanting to modify my behavior for a long time. They wanted to recruit me into their religion. They wanted to humble me and modify my habits. I will tell you that throughout the years, and I had mentioned this before, throughout my bullying in school, But right when it first started, like when I started noticing, I think I was maybe like 6 years old as Maria Gordon. I would be in the classroom and I would start sensing something familiar. This familiarity of sensing that something is about negative about to happen must go all the way back to C.D. Berganza. Because I'm going to tell you, throughout my entire life as Maria Gordon, I have been felt nothing but terror every time I have to deal with some sort of public, setting. If I had to go to school, this is the reason why I left school. This is the reason why I left school. There was no way in the world that they had it so that people just did not respect me and treated me like garbage. Okay, and I would say in my later years of my high school, I wasn't really dressing too elaborately. Most of my clothes came from places like Clothes Time or whatever, so you can't blame it on the clothes. I was a target of these people. Now, I have realized how big the Mormon Church has become over the years. Okay, like I had mentioned before a few nights ago in my video, I was talking about, as I remember, okay, when it came to the Christian denominations, Mormons were not the number one, ideal. Most people spoke very negatively about Mormonism. Why? Because, they remembered the formulation of Mormons back from, all the times of Joseph Smith and all of that stuff. And people held it against Mormons. And that's just the way it was. Okay. So they always looked at themselves as different. I know that Mormons have worked, the system. They've worked against me specifically, and they've also been a main driver of this whole DEI program, removal of the DEI policies. Now, like I said, I'm not somebody who relies on things like affirmative action or DEI. I understand that, but I do understand that, I've always been a job seeker. I've always been somebody who just hoped that people would value my skills. Unfortunately, that's never really happened. But, I find it interesting that, the face of Mormonism has changed from white to adding people of darker races, which I find, funny, mainly because it really comes down to the bottom line. I know that Mormons encourage their members to tithe at least 10% of their income. And, I understand that, they have opened up the priesthood since like the 70s so that blacks can actually obtain the priesthood. And who's to say that they didn't make that little modification, hoping that perhaps maybe I would be dumb enough to be a member. I would never be a member of that church. Mind you, when I think about the whole issue of Mormonism, and how it relates to, this whole idea of the competition and trying to, modify my habits. These people literally made other people enact this form of terrorism out on me, whether that be by action, certain comments being made in work, and then sending people into my life just to be, informants. I'm going to tell you right now, especially people like Steve Murray. Steve Murray did not belong to the Mormon Church, okay? But I understand, like most of these denominations have always made a point to remain separate. Just like Jehovah's Witnesses were supposed to be separate. They had their spiritual beliefs, their religious texts that they would use to try to justify why they could not see themselves as just like a regular Christian. Okay, but yet I find out that somehow or another these people were mingling in with people that were Jehovah's Witnesses and Christians and everything, and all of a sudden Mormons are, 265 billion strong, and I'm thinking, okay, there's been a lot of manipulation working things under the scenes, behind the scenes, okay? But I find it interesting that they would accept members of their church and then somehow work underneath and behind the scenes to undermine their church members. And the reason why I say this is because I'm not pro DEI, I'm not pro affirmative action, but I do see the importance of them. Like, I understand why they were created, and I'm not somebody who sits there and totes and talks about it and tries to promote it either way. I've always stayed, to me it's like, okay, you either like my skills or you don't. Unfortunately, I've always been in this network and I just get thrown any which way, okay? But anyway, going back to, what was I talking about? Okay, I'm just going to go on to the next subject because I'm moving on to something else. But anyway, I know that they have tried, several times to, change my lifestyle, hoping that I would convert to their religion. And this is what the cards told me, and this is what makes sense to me, mainly because, I remember my life as Maria Gordon. I remember the people who said things that were out of line for me. I remember how things were in the workplace. I remember the digs, the comments, the racial slurs, the bullshit. Okay, and I do think that Mormons wanted, very much admired who I was as a person, and they wanted me to somehow, attribute my blessings to their faith. Anyway, I resent what you did. And the reason why I talk about psychology is because I know a lot of people, especially traditional people, they have been controlled by church ideology for a very long time. And don't get me wrong. I mean, like I said, King Solomon contributed some books to the Bible. I'm sure maybe other groups of people within this, what do you call it? This, this soul tribe have possibly contributed things to the Bible. I can say that the royal family has or whatever, but the thing is that these are all our perspectives, and whether I choose to live whatever spiritual path that I choose, it's like what people don't understand is that I look at this as devotion to a higher supreme being, and that's what I look at. I don't look at it as political. I don't look at it as a money-making machine. Like I said, my spirituality is pure. And a lot of people don't understand that because they're more interested in the financial aspect of it. And that is what it is, okay? And I would never, ever try to make some money off of this. Now, like some people will say, well, Maria, didn't you do some magic lessons? Yes, I did. I did. And I was willing to sell those to make money, right? To make up for the missed retirement fund that I don't have. But here's the difference. There's a difference between, for me, if I was to like be a preacher or something like that, there is a difference, okay? Preaching, keeping people up on the up and up and stuff like that, that's different, okay? But giving people lessons, yeah, I do see a reason to do that, especially if I could make money out of it, okay? But I'm nowhere near $265 billion, and nor would I ever exploit somebody, nor would I ever force somebody to try to accept Mormonism. See, I don't believe in using manipulation to try to convert members, okay? And the sad part is, once they lure you in, they are reluctant to let you go, okay? They will manipulate your employment. Like I said, this is a tactic that many religions use, and I'm very glad that I'm not glad that this happened, okay? But this must be spiritual in nature, and obviously it is, okay? It relates to the cloning thing, relates to Mormonism, relates to another person of a different faith, some sort of long-held conflict, okay, battle that, I'm actually shocked, but whatever. Now, I was going back to psychology, okay, that's where I left off, I think I did. Going back to psychology, I think that, when I talk about psychology, it's, I talk about, maybe, these religious people, these Mormon people, they have never considered the fact that what they are doing is abusing people. What they have done is systematically ruined many people's lives, okay? Just by them preaching their false doctrine and not being open enough to allow people that flexibility to leave. You corral people, you abuse people. You know what I mean? And not just me. You know what I mean? I've known the reason why I would reflect and look at some of the Mormon people that I knew as adults who were raising children, who had families, and I honestly tell you, I didn't see them as happy. Okay, and I know why, because there's extreme pressure within that religion. Yes, I have the right to live the way that I want to, and I'm sorry. What you did was you put in the system of genocide. There's a lot of Mormon people that, and I've also heard of other Jehovah's Witnesses as well, who've tried to leave the religion, and they make it very difficult for them to do that. Okay, and it's not that they're serving God; they are forced to serve the Mormon Church, and that's to me is wrong. Okay. But like I said, you can be whatever you really want to. Personally, if I had the choice and if I had the power to deconstruct your religious faith, I would tear every single temple you have down. You know why? Because I just think that you've caused that much problems, especially since you've deceived your members into allowing them to come to your church, but somehow undermining their efforts, by, dismantling DEI, knowing, it's just like, I know that you guys are into money, okay? There's no doubt about it. Okay, so, I had talked about me wanting to monetize my work, and I understand that I got this psychic intuition feeling that that perhaps, I had mentioned a few days ago that I must be appearing on newsreels. Okay, I know that Mormons own a lot. They own a lot. Like when I was growing up, they owned companies like Alpha Beta. They owned companies like Smith's Food King and stuff like that. And I understand that you guys are huge. You guys probably own the media, and I understand that, we also this is where the whole thing, where the clones come in, right? Mormons have always, um, uh, been very connected to the idea of searching, understanding genealogical records. They understand who's been cloned, who, whatever. And oftentimes they take advantage of these people. Okay? This is what I'm talking about, net worth billionaire boy. The reason why he seems detached from reality is because they only let him know what they want him to know. Okay, and yes, it can get extreme, very extreme, to where some people are so, what do you call it, so trapped into their mind control that they don't know if it's day or night. Somebody has to tell them what time it's. I'm talking these extreme cases. Okay, this is why if this person is who I think they are, this is one of the reasons why they have these really ridiculous ideas, thinking that you can invest $1,000 one day, and then the next day or the next week or whatever, it can kind of turn into $2,000. Okay, it's la la land. Okay. So anyway, no, I'm not into your religion. I think you do understand. I do. I got that feeling that you finally understand that. Okay. I would like to be, meet certain people, but I don't want to meet people under those conditions. I don't, I don't want to be part of your Mormon faith. Okay. But I do want to be peaceful. I deserve to have peace. Okay. After hundreds of years of ridiculous war that I don't want to be a part of. Okay. You don't need, I really don't, it's whatever. Anyway, yeah, I understand this is what you do. Do you understand that what you do is you abuse people? Okay. Are you giving people measure for what they put in? If you are enslaving people, what are you going to do to compensate for that? Okay. That is on you. Okay. But anyway, that is my video for tonight. I needed to say that because, for the longest time, it's good that I know deep down inside of it. Oh, what else I want to say to the Mormon Church is that you have created a demonic force within my life. Okay. One of the big things is that you talk about Mormons having like families, and you emphasize families and everything. That you didn't show any sort of respect for my family. Yes, my son, my child, he and I have never spoken about this because I understand that you have told him to hush hush, like I didn't have any right to know what was going on. Okay, but what you did was you caused damage. You caused damage. You caused damage every time you sit here and keep this a secret, and I'm not allowed to talk to other people about it. It's supposed to be hush hush. What you did was you caused a mental damage to a person. Okay, there is always a consequence when people play these sort of games, and unfortunately, it's the person who's the target. You do not infest my home with your demonic shit, because that's what it is. Okay, I have a home, and I have a right to have a family that's strong and protects me from outside forces that are meant to make it collapse. Do you understand that now? Okay, and this is what I'm talking about, the thing about psychology. It's the fact that, you don't understand the cause and effect. All you care about is money. Okay, you really don't care about serving God, but what you do care about is you care about that money. Okay, and I would rather not be bothered with that sort of stuff. Okay, that's not where my spirituality lies. My spirituality is pure. It cannot be compromised. Period. That's why I have the power that I do. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video, and I will be back with another video sometime later. If Billionaire Boy is back from the dead, I do get the feeling that he might be cool and mellow. I would love to be friends with Billionaire Boy if he's going to behave himself. I do not need to be lured in for any sort of abuse. Okay, and I understand that this is how you operate. It's always like, well, I want to bring her in to do what? Okay, I'm not interested. Like, I have to take care of myself. I am tired of being put in places where, like Rex Laverne, I'm here at Lex Laverne's place, and this place sucks. Okay, it doesn't have any ability to move forward. I'm not here for human trafficking purposes. Okay, I'm not here to be a puppet for the Mormon Church. Okay, nor will I. I would never tell somebody that anybody. Why would I advise somebody to walk into your church so they can be manipulated and abused? Because this is what you've proven to me. Okay, so why would I thumb up your church? I wouldn't. I absolutely wouldn't. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video, and I will be back with another video sometime later.